On Christmas Eve of 2023, the villages of Bokos and Barkin-Ladi in Plateau State were wiped off the map. Over 200 Nigerians were slaughtered in their homes. Houses were burned to ashes. The survivors fled to internally displaced persons, IDP camps. The Nigerian media and international news outlets repeated the same tired script. They called it a farmer-herder clash. They called it a religious war between Christians and Muslims. But if you are a forensic investigator, you do not read the press releases, you look at the dirt. A few weeks after the blood dried in Bokos, the herdsmen did not move their cows into the burned villages to graze. Instead, heavy diesel excavators arrived. Foreign contractors, protected by armed local escorts, rolled in. They did not come to plant crops, they came to dig. They were digging for spodumene, the highest grade lithium ore in the world. They were digging for tin, columbite, and tantalite. This is not a religious war, it is a hostile real estate acquisition. The men with the machetes and the AK-47s are just the demolition crew. They clear the human beings off the land. Then, the global mining syndicates walk in to extract the minerals. Those minerals are loaded into trucks, passed through military checkpoints, and shipped out of Lagos to build the battery of an American Tesla or an Apple iPhone. I am a forensic investigator. Today, we are tearing up the script. We are naming the syndicates. We are tracing the blood money from the killing fields of Jos to the global tech supply chain. You are watching Historic Capital. This is the dossier on the Blood Lithium Cartel. If you want to find the killers, you have to find the buyers. Let us go to the Nigerian Mining Cadastre Office, MCO, in Abuja. This is the agency that signs the papers. They issue the exclusive prospecting licenses. Take their map of active mining licenses and place it directly over the map of the massacres in Plateau, Nasarawa, and Kaduna states. They match with terrifying precision the bloodiest zones in the Middle Belt. Riom, Mangu, Bokos are sitting directly on top of a multi-billion-dollar belt of solid minerals. By law, if a multinational company wants to mine lithium, they must negotiate with the indigenous community. They must pay massive compensation. They must sign a community development agreement. That process cuts into the profit margin. But if an armed militia burns the village to the ground, the villagers run for their lives. The government declares the village a red zone due to insecurity. Once the land is empty, the illegal miners simply drive in. They pay zero compensation. They sign no agreements. They extract thousands of tons of raw lithium ore. They pay the armed militias a protection fee to keep the villagers from returning. The Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, stood on national television and admitted a terrifying truth. He said that powerful Nigerians are sponsoring the bandits to protect their illegal mining operations, but he did not name them. We will. They are the local politicians, the retired military generals, and the traditional rulers who form front companies to hold the mining licenses. They secure the paper in Abuja, and they contract the dirty work to the syndicates on the ground. Who is actually running the excavators in the ashes of Jos? Enter the Chinese mining syndicates. In the last 3 years, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the military have arrested dozens of Chinese nationals deep in the forests of the Middle Belt and Kwara State. In May 2024, the EFCC arrested Chinese operators in Nasarawa State. They confiscated truckloads of stolen, unrefined lithium. These are not rogue, independent miners. They are highly organized, well-funded corporate extraction teams. China controls over 70% of the world's lithium refining capacity. They need raw ore to feed the massive battery factories of companies like KATL and BYD. When the Chinese syndicates arrive in Nigeria, they do not bring armies, they bring cash. They set up operations in places like Ways and Barkin-Ladi. They hire the local youth, the same youth whose farms were destroyed, to dig into the toxic dirt for 3,000 naira a day. The Chinese middlemen buy the raw lithium ore from the local militias for absolute pennies. They pack it into 30-ton trucks. Now think about the logistics of this crime. A 30-ton truck loaded with stolen rocks is not invisible. You cannot put it in your pocket. To get from the mining sites in Plateau State to the seaports in Lagos, that truck must drive across 1,000 kilometers of Nigerian highways. It must pass through dozens of police checkpoints. More importantly, it must pass through the checkpoints of Operation Safe Haven, the special military task force deployed to secure Plateau State. How does a massive convoy of stolen lithium drive past the Nigerian military, while the local residents are locked down under a 24-hour curfew? Because the trucks pay the toll. The cartel pays the military commanders, they pay the mobile police, they pay the local government chairman. The security forces do not stop the trucks, they escort them. The citizens are slaughtered, the trucks are protected. When the trucks arrive in Lagos, they meet the customs cartel we exposed in our last dossier. The raw lithium cannot be legally exported without paying massive royalties to the federal government. The Nigerian law says you must refine the minerals locally before export. But the Chinese syndicates do not want to build refineries in Nigeria. They want to extract the raw earth and run. So they buy the signature of a Nigerian customs officer. The customs officer logs into the export database at Apapa port. He classifies the highly valuable lithium or columbite as lead slag, zinc, or raw earth. He falsifies the bill of lading. He hits approve. The containers are loaded onto the massive ships of Maersk and MSC. The stolen wealth of Plateau State leaves the shores of Africa. The Nigerian treasury collects zero royalties. The local government collects zero taxes. The ships sail to the ports of Shanghai and Shenzhen. The raw ore is dumped into giant chemical refineries. It is melted down, it is purified. The moment it melts, its origin is completely erased. The blood is washed away in the fire. This brings us to the buyers, the trillion-dollar American technology companies. Elon Musk needs lithium to build the batteries for Tesla. Apple needs it for the iPhone. Microsoft needs it for their servers. You might ask, how can an American corporation legally buy minerals stolen from a burning village in Nigeria? Because the United States government gave them a loophole. In 2010, the US passed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Section 1502 of this law was designed to stop the trade of conflict minerals. It forces publicly traded American companies to prove to the US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, that their supply chain does not fund armed militias. But read the legal text of the law. The Dodd-Frank Act explicitly defines conflict minerals as those originating in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, or its adjoining countries. Nigeria does not share a border with the Congo. Therefore, under United States financial law, minerals mined by armed bandits in the killing fields of Jos are perfectly legal. A tech company in Silicon Valley can buy thousands of tons of refined lithium from a Chinese middleman. They can put it into an electric vehicle. They can file their paperwork with the SEC in New York, and they can legally stamp the battery as conflict-free. Wall Street looks the other way. The green energy revolution in America is heavily subsidized by the massacres in West Africa. The American consumer buys a Tesla, thinking they are saving the planet. They do not know that the battery was charged by the destruction of an indigenous community in Plateau State. The global tech market demands cheap lithium. The Nigerian cartel supplies the blood, while the foreign syndicates take the minerals. What do the local Nigerian politicians get? They get the emergency budget. Every time there is a massacre in Jos or Kaduna, the state governor goes on television. He cries for the victims. He declares a state of emergency. And then he accesses the security vote. In Nigeria, the security vote is a monthly cash allocation given to governors to fight local crises. But it is a constitutional black hole. The security vote cannot be audited by the Auditor General. It is not subject to legislative oversight. The governor does not have to produce a single receipt. He can withdraw hundreds of millions of naira in raw cash. If Plateau State is peaceful, it is very difficult to justify a massive security vote. But if the state is burning, the governor and the security chiefs can draw billions of naira in raw, untraceable cash. The crisis is the justification for the money. If the military actually wiped out the bandits, the emergency funding would stop. The security votes would dry up. There is zero financial incentive for the political and military elite to end the conflict. Peace is bad for business. The politicians mourn the dead in public. Then they return to their offices, sign the requisition forms, and withdraw the cash in private. You might live in Lagos, or London, or New York, and think this violence does not affect you. You are wrong. You pay the cost of this cartel every time you buy food. The Middle Belt, Plateau, Benue, Kaduna is the food basket of Nigeria. They grow the yams, the maize, the potatoes, and the tomatoes that feed the massive coastal cities. When the farmers of Bokos and Mangu are chased into refugee camps by the mining militias, the crops are not planted. The harvest rots. The supply of food to the southern markets collapses. When you walk into a market in Lagos and complain that the price of a bag of rice or a basket of tomatoes has tripled, you are not just feeling the effect of a weak naira. You are feeling the direct economic impact of the lithium cartel. You are paying the inflation tax of the violence. The syndicates extract the clean energy for the West, and they leave starvation and toxic waste in the Nigerian soil. We look at the breaking news alerts and we see chaos. We are told it is a tragic failure of security. We are told it is an ancient tribal hatred over cattle. It is not a failure. It is a highly efficient, highly profitable corporate supply chain. The violence is simply the first step in the manufacturing process of a global commodity. It clears the land. The Chinese syndicates dig the ore. The Nigerian military escorts the trucks. The customs cartel stamps the export papers. The politicians pocket the security votes. And the Western tech companies buy the clean, finished product. Every player in the system profits. The only entity that loses is the citizen. The next time you read a headline about a farmer-herder clash in a resource-rich state, do not look for the cows. Look for the excavators. Look for the shipping containers. Colonialism did not end. It just updated its technology. They no longer use royal charters to seize the land. They use proxy militias and corporate loopholes. It is colonialism by contract, and it is signed in blood. This dossier exposes the true cost of the global technology boom. If this forensic breakdown changed how you view the violence in Nigeria, you must share it. Send it to someone who still believes the mainstream headlines about religious wars. We have exposed the oil cartel, the London banks, the shipping monopolies, and now the blood minerals. But there is one final piece of the extraction machine. The institution that forces nations to devalue their currency and remove their subsidies in the first place. If you want us to open the files on the IMF, the World Bank, and the currency devaluation trap, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. Leave a comment below. Did you know about the Dodd-Frank loophole for US tech companies? Do you think the tech giants should be forced to audit their Nigerian supply chains? Let's read the records together. You are watching Historic Capital. The truth is in the transactions. Follow the money.